Well, good morning, Rotary International District 7770. Welcome to Conversations with Rotary Action People for Monday, June 22nd. I'm Donald Hovis with the Chicora Rotary Club here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Today is all about ports, and I believe the title of today is How Do We Get Those Big Ships to Dillon and Greenville? Joining us today from the South Carolina Ports Authority is Miss Jordi Yarborough. Good morning, Jordi.
Good morning, Donald.
Thank you for being with us. We do appreciate it very, very much. I'll apologize for me being here on my phone, but having some internet difficulties today. So I will ask if past District Governor David Terrard from the Rotary Club of Hilton Head Island will come off mute and do the vision statement of Rotary for us today.
Happily. Together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves.
Thank you, David. Jordi, I want to introduce a few key dignitaries that are on the line with us today.
Okay.
Past Rotary International Vice President from the lovely city of Columbia, South Carolina. She's got her Gamecock hat on there, Miss Ann Matthews. Good morning, Ann. Past District Governor from the Rotary Club of Mount Pleasant, there in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, Mr. Lou Mello. Good morning, Lou. We just introduced him, but past District Governor from the Rotary Club of Hilton Head Island, Mr. David Terrard and his wife, Susan. District Governor nominee designee from the Beaufort Sea Island Rotary Club, Mr. Bob Gross. Good morning, Bob. Our public chair for our Rotary District from the 5 Points Rotary Club in Columbia, South Carolina, Mary Gask. Good morning, Mary. And last but not least, our District Communications Chair from the Somerville Evening Rotary Club in Somerville, South Carolina, Mr. Terry Moore. All right, Jordi. I know you have a presentation. Are we going to share your screen now?
We're going to share the screen, and thank you so much, Donald, for having me and for everyone joining today. Just briefly, I'm going to give you all a quick PowerPoint update, but I wanted to say this is really a pleasure for me this morning as the Senior Vice President of External Affairs. I'm accustomed to being out in the community quite a bit and meeting with folks and sharing information about the port. During this shutdown time, Jim Newsom, our CEO, has had an opportunity to do a couple of community speaking engagements, as has our COO, Barbara Melvin. But this is my first back in the game. So the extrovert in me wants to thank y'all very much for asking me to join you today and share some good information about what's going on with the port. So like I mentioned, I'm going to run through quickly a slide deck that I put together for you all, and then leave open some time for Q&A as you've asked and that I'm happy to do. So first and foremost, every good organization, we believe, has to have a clear set vision and values to support that vision. Ours is to be the preferred port of the top 10 ports. I'm going to show you the list of those ports in just a moment. And the way we do this is through this set of values that we actually developed from the ground up here at the Port Authority, being adaptable as we are, adapting to these new ways of communicating post-COVID, being business-minded, customer-focused, decisive, enthusiastic, having faith in one another, and really at the heart of that is safety and security. And by that I mean, as Terry knows from being in the shipping industry, the terminal is got a lot of big equipment, high voltage areas, lots of safety has to be first and foremost on our minds on the terminal, as well as thinking about being secure through our cybersecurity efforts. So those are kind of the heart of what's important here in carrying out our vision and values. So it sounds like most of you are familiar with the coast, a couple of Columbia residents there, but I'll just orient you all so you'll know what I'm speaking of each terminal and what's going on in these facilities. Starting on the right-hand side of your screen at the Wando Welsh Terminal. That's actually where I am broadcasting to you all today here at our headquarters. That's on the back corner of that terminal. That's our largest container operating terminal, developed back in the early 80s. We're going to talk about the big ships, and I'll just make a note on that for now. And Terry will appreciate this. When we contemplated this facility, it was a 5-berth wharf because the ships were much smaller, and today it's operated with 3 berths. So our largest container terminal here, jumping over Daniel Island and up the Cooper River, is the North Charleston Terminal. That's our other container terminal operating facility. It has some constraints, that facility, because it is, as you can see, it's up above the Don Holt Bridge, which is the bridge that spans the Cooper River on 526. So some air draft constrictions there that don't allow these big post-Panamax ships to call on that facility. So coming down the Cooper, we have a new facility, the HUGH LEATHERMAN facility terminal, that is due to open in March of this coming year. It's situated very similarly to the Wando terminal, where we will be able to have the post-Panamax ships call on that facility. You'll notice there a notation that says the proposed ICTF. That stands for Intermodal Container Transfer Facility. That is a project that is spearheaded by our partners at Palmetto Rail, which is a division of our sister agency, the South Carolina Department of Commerce. It's an important component to that new facility, as we will be able to move the boxes from terminal on a dedicated road to that intermodal facility to then send them out via rail as opposed to over road. We do also have over road, a dedicated access road from 26 to this terminal as well. But again, with the focus on rail and moving those boxes, as you mentioned, Donald, to Dillon and GREER via rail. That's an important component of that project that's being run by that agency, as I mentioned. Coming down the peninsula, you'll see the Columbus Street Terminal. That's where we operate our roll-on, roll-off cargo, which is mostly the BMWs, Volvos, Mercedes-Benz, and anything that doesn't fit in a container. And then lastly, our Union Pier Terminal, which is where we operate our cruise operations, which due to COVID is actually suspended at the moment. I think Carnival just announced, which is our home port ship, that they're looking to come back online towards the end of September. So we're looking forward to things getting back to normal with our cruise operations as well. We have a significant impact on the state of South Carolina. We did an economic impact study. Actually, we updated our study from 2015 just last year. Shows that we're responsible for 1 in 10 jobs directly and indirectly in the state of South Carolina, and had a $63 billion annual economic output. We are a globally trade dependent state, meaning we have significant foreign direct investment in South Carolina, BMW, Samsung, Michelin, the list goes on. So we've really seen our port volume double in line with the advanced manufacturing over the last 10 years. We'll be tacking into the retail space moving forward, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in our strategic thinking behind that. But we're also proud to say that port-related jobs are on average 35% higher than other jobs in the state. Also looking to build on our export transloading footprint here in South Carolina. That's really about matching import and export boxes to be most efficient in the supply chain effort. Next, we have a slide that is the top 10 ports, as I mentioned to you. If I showed you this list of ports by pure volume, we would land number 9 on this list. But why show you that when I could show you one where we landed number 1? So we are the fastest growing port amongst the top 10 ports in the U.S. You'll notice the Southeast region is the fastest growing region in the U.S. currently, and this is indicative of the top 5 there being all Southeast located ports here in the U.S. So naturally, the largest are Los Angeles, Long Beach, and New York, because that's where the most people live. The new Leatherman terminal, as I mentioned, very exciting to be bringing this online here in March of 2021. This facility will be rolled out in 3 phases. Ultimately, it'll be very similar to the Wando Welsh terminal in terms of its TEU capacity. But we're excited. If you look at the photo, the aerial photo on your left of your screen there, towards the bottom, you can see the wharf, the concrete on the wharf there. That's phase 1, and so will grow as you go up the wharf there. So a massive endeavor. This will allow us to work 4 14,000 TEU ships simultaneously once this facility is open, adding that new berth over at the HUGH Leatherman terminal. More effort to get us big ship ready faster than our competing partners. We've been engaged in our harbor deepening project for the last several years. It will, at 52 feet, we will be the deepest harbor on the East Coast. This will allow us to handle these post-Panamax ships very easily, with as they only require 48 feet of draft coming through the inner harbor and 52 out in the entrance channel. Another key piece to this project is widening the turning basin. So if you think about the shipping industry wanting to be on time and efficient, time is money, right? So if you can turn the ship with another ship still at the dock, obviously that's the desirable situation. So with widening the turning basin, we'll be able to do that. And then that transit time will be from beginning to end a 3-hour transit time. So very competitive in our field. The project is fully funded. I am proud to say, as leading the government relations team here, that we were put in the president's budget last year for $138 million to fully fund the federal side of this. But I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that our state really was really very smart and forward thinking when it set aside $300 million back in 2012 for this project. Without that, we wouldn't have gotten the start that we have. This project's been 10 years in the making. By comparison, our competitor to the south in their project has taken about 20 years, about twice as long. So it was really very wise and forward thinking in a time that the state really didn't have the extra money to do that. Since then, we've added another $50 million in a loan from the state to us to fully fund the project. So we're looking for that project to be completed in Q2 of 2022. So that's really exciting and something that a lot of folks have worked really hard and very long with the Army Corps and our other partners there to realize this project. You asked about GREER and Dillon, another very innovative way that my partners here at the port with forward thinking. It was Jim Newsom and the Norfolk Southern leaders and BMW leaders that first conceptualized the inland port and GREER. Other ports had tried this model, but we found the secret sauce was really having an anchor customer at the location. So for us, that was BMW. So day one, we were moving BMW cars and parts and containers. So a real success story there. Of course, the growth that's been associated around this terminal in the upstate has just been tremendous. TTI is a big company, that electronic company, Adidas, and others. So we can expand our reach for that facility all throughout the Southeast region, which is what our sales and marketing team is working on all the time. It was so successful that we repeated this model in Dillon, which is just above Florence on the I-95 corridor, right at the North Carolina border. There, the anchor customer is Harbor Freight Tools. And there's lots of opportunities for growth in Dillon, lots of land there for agribusiness growth, et cetera. So finished the calendar year out there with an impressive 33,574 rail lifts. So Dillon is really off to a really good start. Of course, we couldn't do this all just the Port Authority. We have an extensive workforce that are all at play with this successful supply chain model that we have. We ourselves have about 700 employees here at the Port Authority, along with our partners in the ILA at 1,500. I think we can all take a moment and thank our truckers, as we've all been made acutely aware of how important they are over the last several months in making sure our goods get to our stores and in our shopping carts. Between the hand sanitizer, Clorox wipes, and toilet paper, I'm certainly appreciative of our trucking partners. Also the tug and pilots, as well as the distribution support, all totaling more than 9,000 jobs directly here in the maritime community. So I'm kind of breezing through this all because I know you want Q&A. A quick little summary, you know, we're an owner-operated port, and that's proven to be the most highly productive and cost-efficient model. We're proud of that. We're always striving to balance our imports and exports. Last thing we want for the shipping lines is to move empty boxes, right? So as imports grow in the Southeast region, we're also still staying focused on exports to be able to match those boxes back. The big ship companies all calling here. As I mentioned, we can simultaneously handle 4 of those when HLT comes online in March. So very excited about that. With our deep harbor and the multi-ship system, we're well on track of being able to handle these big ships as well as even bigger, which I'm going to show you in just a second. We're a world-class port. We're really focusing on our retail distribution growth. As I mentioned, the last 10 years have been heavily focused on advanced manufacturing growth. We have been seeing, and even before this COVID situation, but now even more so, the trend towards e-commerce and the opportunities there for import volumes for us. So we're really focusing on that. We will have some exciting news along those lines here in the next couple of months, so stay tuned for that. And of course, we couldn't do any of it without the dedicated and committed workforce that we have throughout the industry. I did want to share this last photo with you all, which is, as Terry said, his company once had the largest TEU ship. I think you said at 3,600 TEUs. This is a 19,000 TEU ship by the Mediterranean Shipping Company. It is the largest in the world right now. We have actually simulated this size ship to be able to call on both the Wando Walsh Terminal and the HUGH Leatherman Terminal once built out. For some context, since it's a European-based shipping line, I'll tell you that if you turn to the Eiffel Tower on its end, the ship is longer or taller than the Eiffel Tower. But for us back on this side, and I think it was Amy that's the Gamecock fan, that would be the longer than 4 football fields. So just a massive, massive ship. And we look forward to the day that a ship like this can call on us here in Charleston Harbor. And so with that, I know I kind of breezed through it, but I know your time is precious, and I wanted to be sure and leave some time for questions and answers.
Well, thank you, Jordi. I think I'll start out by saying if you do have a question, please post that in the chat box, and I will then ask those to Jordi. And Jordi, you may have mentioned this during your talk, but I want you to reiterate it if you did. And if you didn't, then explain what a TEU is.
I'm so sorry, Donald. That is the first and foremost thing I should explain. So back in the 50s, when containerized shipments were standard, the container box was 20 feet in length. So the measurement is always TEU stands for 20-foot equivalent unit. And so that's the means by which we measure the boxes. However, in today's world, really the standard size box is 40 feet in length. So oftentimes in our news reports or in an article, you may hear us refer to pier containers, which is not a 1-for-1 ratio, but that's actual number of boxes. And the TEU, of course, is the measurement by the total, the 2 TEUs basically for a 40-foot container.
Excellent. Thank you for explaining that. Now for some questions from the viewers here. Will there be more import terminals in South Carolina or maybe perhaps in the North Carolina area?
So I can't speak to the North Carolina area. We get asked often. The inland ports have been such a success stories for those communities, and anyone that's familiar with the Dillon area knows that that part of our state has really been underserved in terms of economic growth. And so we get asked often for when will we have another inland port? The answer really is driven by the need. We've got an exciting prospect going on out in Ridgeville industrial site right now, which is out near Volvo on the I-26 corridor. For those of you that are familiar with where the new Volvo site is, that won't necessarily be an inland port per se, but will function a little bit like that, as it will be our vision there is for it to be an import distribution facility with export transloading. So for example, one big growth segment we've been enjoying lately is resin transloading operations here in Charleston. So believe it or not, from the Gulf, companies will ship rail cars full of plastic pellets, resins, to South Carolina. They are then transloaded into bags and boxed and put into containers for export. So our idea is we need to have an import box coming in to then get matched back with that export box, with that example of the resin products there.
Okay. What is the latest on a new cruise terminal?
Oh, well, new cruise terminal. So if anyone's been around a while, you know that we've been in talks for many, many years and actually in litigation over moving our cruise terminal operations from the Union Pier site to the north end, well, actually it's on the south end of our Union Pier site to the north end of our Union Pier terminal. Someone mentioned earlier, we sold our headquarters downtown Charleston to Lowe developers about a year or two ago, and they're putting a new hotel there, and quite logically, we would like that whole area to be redeveloped. We can't move forward with that until we move the cruise passenger terminal. So we're still committed to that. We're still working with people in the community to try to find a resolution to being able to continue our cruise operations, because our cruise operations are important to us. It's a small segment of our business portfolio, but it's an important segment and something that we're committed to. Carnival has been a terrific partner for the port. They're the home ship operation there. We miss them, and hopefully this situation we're all experiencing will come to an end soon, and we'll see those ships coming back here in Charleston later this fall.
Next question is, do you know why the air draft under the Ravenel is 186 feet?
So that measurement actually is the mean high water measurement that at the lowest peaks of the middle span. So really, although it's listed like that, there's about 200 feet of air draft clearance in the center of the bridge, but the way it's reported is the center span's lowest point. So with that, and with our talented harbor pilots, we're able to traverse the large ships, the big post-Panamax ships, under the bridge safely to our two container terminals.
Hey, Jordi, I asked that as a trick question.
Oh, you did?
Yes, it's a trick question.
Okay,
it's 100. It's Lou. It's Lou.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's 186 feet here in Charleston because Savannah is 185, and they did it on purpose. They did it on purpose.
Well, we always like to best them, right? So, yeah, you know, that actually was again before my time. But when the Ravenel Bridge was conceived, it was the harbor pilots that came out very, very early on and insisted that the bridge be higher. As you, Lou, predicted that these ships would need more space to get under that bridge. So we've contributed to that extra height over the past, 20 years, I guess now. So that was good planning again.
All right, Jordi. Savannah is a big competitor. Being so close to I-95, does that give them an advantage long term?
You know, I would say that over the years, we've competed quite fiercely with Savannah. You see in that slide where I list the sizes of our two operations that Savannah is almost twice our size in volume. A lot of that is driven by the population of Atlanta. If you think about population-wise, Atlanta in and of itself is equal in size to the entire state of South Carolina. And again, where imports are driven by where people live, you know, that's a significant component to their growth over the last several years. We are working more closely together. We're actually involved in a joint venture over the Jasper Ocean, or the development of the Jasper Ocean Terminal. We just had a meeting last week where they set out the budget for this year in the long-term planning for that facility. So while we still are the Hatfields and McCoys out in the sales department, which they would be upset with me for not saying so, we are finding ways to work collaboratively otherwise.
What is your current export to import ratio in containers?
Oh goodness, it's close to balanced. It's close to 50-50. I'd have to pull up the numbers exactly. Now you're getting into operations. I'm external affairs, guys. Go easy on me.
We got you. And I have a couple more here for you. Do you have sufficient rail capacity to maximize your offering?
So rail is definitely a growth area for us. I think last year we moved about 24% of our cargo via rail. It's an efficient way to move cargo and something, honestly, that we really have to focus on, realizing the over-the-road constraints we have in South Carolina. So we're always looking to grow that. Of course, our inland port systems are a key component to that. As I mentioned, the intermodal container transfer facility that's part of or akin to the HUGH LEATHERMAN terminal project is also a key piece of that. So, you know, our rail partners are important to us, and we definitely see that we need to prioritize that moving in the future for growth, more growth, moving boxes over rail.
Is the Jasper Port still on your horizon, and what are the benefits?
The Jasper Port is still on the horizon. Current projections, and this was pre-COVID situation, was 2035, 2037 timeframe. You know, all of our investments and projects, construction projects coming to fruition are largely dependent on the economy. All of our projects are long lead time. You know, the fact that we've got a new terminal coming online as we're hopefully coming out of this economic downturn due to COVID, you know, is something to note, that it's just, they take a lot. We can't plan in the short term, is what I'm trying to say. And so Jasper is a long-term planned project. The benefit, of course, is that we'll be in Savannah's backyard. Jasper, the facility itself is in South Carolina, but it's serviced by the Savannah River. So partnering with them is definitely a benefit to get into that market. So yeah, so keep your eyes open, but long-term Jasper is still in the mix, absolutely.
And my last question here for you this morning, is Savannah still limited to a 45-foot depth in the channel?
Is that another trick question from Lou? You know, I can't really speak to what's going on in Savannah. We really focus here what's going on here in Charleston. Like I said, we can, I did not mention to you all, in our harbor, we can actually have two of the post-Panamax ships pass each other in our harbor. So that's a real strong competitive advantage, again, in terms of getting ships in and out as efficiently as possible. So 52 feet here come Q2 of 2022. And we'll be excited to welcome those big ships without tidal restrictions when that happens.
It wasn't really a trick question, but I do know that at a certain point, Savannah was going to be limited to 45 foot, and obviously they can't even pass in the channel. It can just be one ship at a time. So that's a fairly significant difference compared to the Charleston capability.
Yes, thank you for that.
Well, thank you, Jordi, so much for sharing today about the South Carolina ports. What an interesting topic here to start off Monday. I hope everyone that listened was able to learn something. I definitely learned a lot today, so we appreciate.
Well, thank you too, and I'll extend an invitation when we resume community tours. If you all would like to come down and actually take a tour of the terminal, I'd be more than happy to arrange that for your group.
Good.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
I will conclude today by doing the Rotary four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Up next on Conversations with Rotary Action People on Wednesday is all about NASA and how a 17-year-old in our area is helping build projects for NASA. That's going to truly be, can't wait to hear that. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. That's a wrap for Conversations with Rotary Action People for Monday, June 22nd. Thanks again, Jordi.
Thank
Have a good
you.
day.
Bye-bye.